As you've already seen, we have used in previous lessons a couple of occasions XHTML and CSS commands. And if you remember, I've told you back at the time that we will get back to XHTML comments and CSS comments, and we'll explain a little bit better functionality and how exactly do we use them and what is the purpose of a comment. We'll start with the XHTML comment. So the XHTML comment, you can use it to comment parts of your markup code, and in this way the browser will disregard the code and it will not render it. For instance, if I am going to take a look here under my H1 element header, which stated comments in XHTML and CSS, I have one XHTML comment that says this is an XHTML comment. Now, normally we know that every text placed within the body, usually it's translated and is rendered within the page. However, in this case, if I'm going to get back to my page and refresh, I am going to realize that under my header comments in XHTML and CSS, the text, this is an XHTML comment, is nowhere to be found. That's because my text is placed within an comment markup tag. Now, obviously, because you have content within the XHTML comment, that means the comment itself contains two tags. And let's take a look at the syntax of an XHTML comment. Now, the first thing I'd like to say is that the XHTML comment would be formed out of a declaration open delimiter, which would be these two, and then it has a comment open delimiter. Then at the end you have the comment close delimiter and a declaration close delimiter, and everything is between is the commented content. Now, of course, exactly are these delimiters. So the first two, which declare the declaration open delimiter, would be formed out of a right angle bracket and one exclamation sign, and would be basically the start tag of the comment element. And this will tell to the browser that this is where the comment element will start, and the declaration close delimiter will tell to the browser that this is where the comment element will end. Now you'll be wondering what the other two actually do. Well, as the name stated, it's an comment open delimiter, which tells to the browser that this is where the comment starts, and as the comment close delimiter tells to the browser this is where the comment ends. So I repeat one more time. This is the way that you can tell to the browser that this starts and this ends the element, the comment element, and the other two, which are formed out of hyphens, tells where to end and where to start the commented content. But for general use, you just use it as a one single tag, start tag and end tag of the HTML comment markup element. Now let's say I want to comment this first, okay, this first content. Basically I want to take it out from the viewer page, but I just do not really want to delete it, because maybe at some point in time I want to go back and reactivate it. So in this way I can use the comment with the start tag, and then I'll go right about here and say, okay, this is where it ends. I might just as well do it like this. So it doesn't really matter of how much space is between these two tags, because it's always going to be commented. You can left no space at all if you like, or just some kind of space. I usually do this. It's much more easier to read. And then you save it once you place the start tag and the end tag, which are the start delimiters and the end delimiters. And then save, go back and refresh, and the content is gone. So will not be rendered by the browser. Now this is the way that you are going to use the XHTML command. Okay, let's undo this first. Okay, now the CSS1 would pretty much work in the same way as the XHTML is stated. The only difference would be the declaration delimiters. So the CSS comment would be formed out of course, one one declaration open delimiter, and that would be formed of out of 1 slash and 1 asterisk, and it has the declaration close delimiter, which is this one, and it's formed out of 1 asterisk and 1 slash. Now, of course, you can use, as I said, in the same way, basically to comment code out. And let's say if I want to comment this code, which is my background, okay, of the main body, I'm just going to save it. So you place one tag at the start and one at the end of the commented properties. Okay, just save it, go back and refresh. And of course, this is what the browser did when it read the properties and values from our CSS file. Wherever he encountered the comments, then he disregarded totally the content within. Now, there's one thing you can notice is that you can have multiple declaration, actually multiple contents within any given parts of the document. You can either place it here or inside the properties and values, and of course you can use it also to have something like this. For instance, I wanted to have, I don't know, multiple type of backgrounds for test. So in order not to constantly replace things, delete, erase, I just as well comment it, and it will be much more easier, and I'll have it there for further reference. So just save the file, go back and refresh, and this will change my background with a darker gray, because this is what this color is. So if you do not really like it, but you want to keep it there for further reference, maybe in a later time you want to revert back, just comment and go back to your previous declaration that we had there, property and value. Okay, now of course at this point you're probably wondering, what if I want to comment multiple lines? Well, of course you can comment as much as you like to. So we just commented these two. I'm just going to save it, and when the browser will load, of course we'll disregard everything in between the comments. However, there is something you should be aware of, and that is, if we are looking here, we've seen that we already have a declaration inside, a comment, and we have another comment around here, and we have a couple of more comments around here. Okay, now what the specification says is that you may not have the comments nested. So you cannot have multiple nested comments, and that would be a comment within a comment. For one, it defeats the purpose because there will be no point in actually commenting something that is already commented. And the second one would be the fact that it's going to generate an error. For instance, if I am going to get back to XHTML because this is a valid thing for both of them, let's say I want to comment everything from here to here. Well, as I've showed you, okay, you place the start tag there, and I want to place my end tag here. So everything in between is commented. For one thing, you've noticed that this text did not turn to green. This is the way that my editor tells me that this is a comment. It turns everything to green. So already you can notice it's an error because obviously it didn't turn to green. And then when I save it and go back and refresh, I know that I commented everything from this point to right about here. And if I'm going to refresh, the only thing that disappeared was my header, but not the rest of the content. And my question is why? As you can see already here, we have an end tag of the declaration. It is treated like text now. And the question would be why? Well, this is pretty simple. Now, we've stated here that this is our start tag. And then the browser said, okay, this is where the comment starts. And I'm trying to read, okay, this is commented, it's not interesting. Oh, then again, you have another start tag, but this is not my problem, so it's already started here. But what I'm interested more likely in is where this comment ends. And the browser sees the end tag here and says, okay, the comment is finished. That's all I have to disregard. Everything else will be loaded. But you'll probably think, okay, but I have a start tag here and an end tag here. And the browser says, no, I'm sorry, your end tag is here, so I'm sorry, I cannot really comment anything else. So this is the way it actually works. You cannot comment multiple lines. If you really want to comment the header, just do it like this, and then you go back here and comment the rest of the content. This is one way to go. Oh, something is, yeah, it's correct because we commented it. I'm sorry. And what I was about to say is that so this is one way to go, or delete all contents in between and leave just one start tag and one end tag. Go back and refresh, and we have the same results. Of course, let's say the reason for which I may not want to do something like this constantly is because one second, I just undo these things for now. Is that, let's say, as I said, you can insert comments for different purpose, and instead of saying this is an external content, I will say this is where the main content starts. So, or I might just as well say main content. Okay, so I know that from this point on is the content. Then if I want to comment everything else, then as I said, I'll place the start tag and the start tag and the end tag. But then again, I'll still have this important thing, and of course there is no harm done. Okay. Now the same thing goes as well for the CSS1. Please make sure you do not really have this kind of things, because it will most likely generate errors. As you can see already here, the browser showed me a different color, and I know that this is where it starts and this is where it ends, and of course all the code that follows in this case will be totally disregarded. So no do's for these ones. Now there is one more thing I would like to add at this point, is that well, what exactly I want to say? No, I remember. Is that you may have one more interesting kind of situation with the comments, and that would be when we are going to have something like this. I'm just going to uncomment for a second there, and that would be the style element, which already know what it does from previous lesson. Basically it imports CSS into my file, not as an external, but specified within the head element. And at this point the style would load for the element P a different style, and if I save it and go back and refresh for once, my comment is back. Then it applies a different style for these two paragraphs. Of course, the third one, it still has the style declared in the style sheet. That's because it has a different class, and we know what the class does. It's a higher it actually overrides the element 1. Okay. If you do not remember why exactly and how, please review the other lessons about the CSS. So keep this short. Now, obviously, this is a CSS code, and this is an XHTML code, and of course I can actually add comments. So if I go here and add a comment inside the CSS, don't be fooled by the fact that the editor does not really comment actually color in green as it does in the style CSS. It's the way that he behaves with different kind of styles, but the fact is that you know that this is correct syntax, and if I save it and go back and refresh, it does what it's supposed to do. So it takes out the background color. However, make sure that you use these delimiters as intended. This will work inside the CSS within these element tags. Okay. However, if you want to comment the style, make sure you're not going to do something like this just because you know there is a CSS line there, because it will not work and will generate an error. However, if you want to do that, use instead the XHTML comment tag. This is the way that you comment one complete element, and that means he will comment the element and all that the element contains. Okay, so this is the thing you should bear in mind. Other than that, everything else looks just as fine. So this is how you are going to use your comments in XHTML and CSS.